Have your words ever betrayed you? That careless remark, the heat-of-the-moment reaction? We've all been there. But what if the real power wasn't in being heard, but in knowing when and how to speak? Discover the ancient wisdom of Stoicism and unlock the surprising strength that comes from mastering your words, and ultimately, yourself. Principle 1. Listen more, speak less. The Stoics, recognizing the inherent interconnectedness of all things and the fundamental importance of understanding as the bedrock of wisdom, placed an extraordinary emphasis on the active and virtuous practice of listening. For them, genuine understanding was not a passive reception of auditory stimuli, but a dynamic and deeply engaged process that demanded the full cognitive and emotional presence of the individual. Seneca, a keen observer of human nature and a masterful communicator in his own right, frequently exhorted his readers to truly hear others, to immerse themselves in the speaker's message with an open and receptive mind, unburdened by preconceived notions or the incessant internal monologue of one's own thoughts. This Stoic ideal of listening transcended the mere mechanical act of hearing words. It necessitated a proactive and sustained effort to comprehend the entirety of the speaker's communication, their explicit statements, their underlying emotions, their unspoken intentions, and the unique tapestry of their personal history and contextual circumstances that colored their message. It was an exercise in profound empathy, a conscious and deliberate attempt to step into the psychological and emotional space of another, to perceive the world through their unique lens. For the Stoics, this deep level of comprehension was not merely a social courtesy, but a fundamental ethical imperative, a tangible manifestation of the virtue of prudence that guided all wise action. By truly and holistically listening, we cultivate the capacity for reasoned judgment, allowing us to respond to others with insight, compassion, and a genuine understanding of their needs and perspectives, rather than reacting impulsively based on incomplete information or self-centered biases. This unwavering commitment to attentive listening, therefore, forms the indispensable foundation upon which all other principles of Stoic communication are built. For without a genuine and empathetic understanding of those with whom we interact, our own words, no matter how eloquently crafted, risk becoming instruments of misunderstanding, division, and ultimately, a departure from the virtuous path. Principle 2. Control your emotions before you speak. At the very heart of Stoic philosophy lies the foundational understanding that while emotions are an intrinsic and undeniable aspect of the human experience, they possess the formidable potential to cloud our rational faculty and steer us away from the pursuit of virtue if they are permitted to reign unchecked. This core tenet finds a direct and particularly crucial application in the Stoic approach to the art of verbal communication. Venerable figures within the Stoic tradition, such as the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius, consistently and diligently reminded themselves of the absolute necessity of maintaining reason as the steadfast and unwavering governor of all their actions, both internal and external, including the articulation of their thoughts and feelings through speech. The Stoics possessed a keen and penetrating awareness of the destructive power that untamed emotions could unleash through the vehicle of our words. Anger igniting impulsive and deeply hurtful remarks that could sever bonds and inflict lasting wounds. Fear-breeding anxious and often irrational pronouncements that could sow seeds of doubt and insecurity, and vanity and pride, fueling boastful and frequently misleading claims that could erode trust and foster resentment. True self-mastery, in the Stoic worldview, therefore, demanded a rigorous, ongoing, and deeply introspective discipline of our emotional responses, particularly in the critical moments preceding their translation into verbal expression. This involved a constant practice of vigilant self-awareness, a sustained internal dialogue aimed at discerning the origins, nature, and validity of our feelings, and a conscious and deliberate effort to meticulously filter our thoughts and impulses through the discerning sieve of reason before granting them the power to shape our speech. This was emphatically not a call for the suppression or denial of genuine human emotions, nor was it an advocacy for a detached and emotionally sterile existence. Rather, it was a profound and nuanced call for the cultivation of emotional intelligence, for achieving a deep and comprehensive understanding of our own emotional landscape, so that we could skillfully navigate its complexities and prevent our feelings from overpowering our rational capacity. The ultimate guide for virtuous conduct and wise constructive communication. By diligently cultivating this unwavering emotional sovereignty in our discourse, we actively embody the core Stoic virtues of temperance and self-control, ensuring that our words serve as precise and effective instruments of truth, clarity, and harmonious engagement with the world and its inhabitants, rather than devolving into volatile weapons of discord, regret, and a departure from the path of virtue. Principle 3. Speak less than you think. The Stoics, characterized by their profound commitment to truth, their unwavering pursuit of clarity, and their deep appreciation for the efficient and purposeful allocation of all resources, including their own cognitive and verbal energies, championed a mode of communication that was fundamentally direct, rigorously honest, and resolutely driven by a clear and well-defined intention. They harbored a deep-seated skepticism towards the superficiality of empty rhetoric, the seductive allure of unnecessary ornamentation in language, and the manipulative potential of words employed solely for the sake of personal aggrandizement or the coercion of others. Epictetus, a figure whose own life journey exemplified resilience and wisdom, frequently and unequivocally exhorted his students to embrace the power of plain speaking, to articulate their thoughts with clarity and conciseness, and to focus their precious verbal energy on conveying the essence of what truly held significance. For the Stoics, words were not to be treated as frivolous commodities to be squandered carelessly. Rather, they were potent and multifaceted tools to be wielded with precision, intention, and a deep sense of responsibility for their potential impact. Every utterance in their discerning view carried a tangible consequence, be it the expenditure of valuable time and mental energy, the inherent risk of misinterpretation and misunderstanding, or the very real possibility of inflicting unintended emotional or even social harm upon oneself or others. Therefore, they steadfastly advocated for a deliberate and deeply mindful approach to the crafting and delivery of our verbal expressions, consistently prioritizing the conveyance of substantive meaning over mere stylistic flourish and clarity, of articulation over the deliberate creation of ambiguity. This fundamental Stoic economy of language was not an isolated principle, but rather an organic and integral extension of their broader philosophical framework, which deeply valued simplicity, practicality, and an unwavering focus on those aspects of life that lay squarely within the realm of our control. By consciously and diligently striving to cultivate a style of communication that was consistently veracious, conscientiously crafted, and resolutely purpose-driven, we actively honor the core Stoic virtue of honesty and contribute to a more meaningful, productive, and ultimately virtuous exchange of ideas. fostering genuine understanding, mutual respect, and tangible progress in our interactions with the world and its diverse inhabitants. Principle 4. Guard your plans. The Stoics, while certainly not advocating for a life shrouded in secrecy or characterized by pervasive distrust, possessed a profound and nuanced understanding of the inherent wisdom in exercising a measured degree of prudence when it came to publicly disclosing our nascent plans, deeply cherished aspirations, and as yet unrealized ambitions. They astutely recognize that the premature articulation of our innermost intentions, particularly before they had been nurtured by sustained effort and fortified by tangible progress, could often prove to be counterproductive, potentially dissipating our internal resolve and inadvertently inviting a barrage of external obstacles, unsolicited criticisms, and even the subtle but insidious erosion of our own intrinsic motivation, a phenomenon that can sometimes occur simply through the act of verbalizing our goals before committing to substantive action. Seneca, a keen observer of the often complex dynamics of human endeavor and a profound guide to navigating the intricacies of life, frequently hinted in his reflective writings at the significant value of quiet contemplation, the cultivation of inner resolve, and the strategic withholding of sensitive information or ambitious plans until the opportune moment for their revelation had truly arrived. This foundational Stoic principle of deliberate reticence was emphatically not born out of a cynical worldview, characterized by distrust or a desire for manipulative secrecy. Rather, it stemmed from a deep and insightful understanding of the delicate and often fragile nature of human aspirations and the inherently unpredictable influences and vagaries of the external world. By choosing to keep our evolving plans and deeply held goals somewhat guarded and shielded from premature external scrutiny during their formative stages, we effectively created a protected inner sanctuary, allowing us to conserve our precious mental and emotional energy, to maintain an unwavering focus on the essential actions required for tangible progress, and to cultivate a robust sense of self-reliance, unburdened by the potentially swaying and often distracting currents of external opinions and expectations. This foundational practice of deliberate reservation thus powerfully underscored the core Stoic emphasis on the paramount importance of self-sufficiency and the critical need to align our innermost intentions with our outward actions in a manner that was both deeply considered and strategically astute. Principle 5. Choose your confidants wisely. While the Stoic philosophy ardently championed the vital importance of active engagement with the wider human community and the conscientious fulfillment of our various social duties and responsibilities, it simultaneously placed an exceptionally high premium on the exercise of careful and discerning judgment in the selection of those individuals with whom we chose to share the most intimate landscapes of our inner lives, our deepest thoughts, our most profound fears, and our most cherished aspirations. The sagacious emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius, in the deeply personal reflections recorded in his meditations, consistently and earnestly advised himself on the critical importance of diligently seeking out the companionship of individuals characterized by unwavering virtuous character, recognizing the profound and often transformative influence that such wise and principled souls could exert on his own ongoing moral and intellectual development. The Stoics possessed a keenly developed understanding of the potential for both profound benefit and significant harm inherent in the act of confiding in others, recognizing that not all individuals possess the requisite levels of empathy, wisdom, or fundamental commitment to the principles of virtue necessary to serve as trustworthy and supportive recipients of our deepest vulnerabilities. Indiscriminate sharing of our innermost thoughts and feelings, they wisely cautioned, could unfortunately lead to experiences of unwarranted judgment, subtle or overt manipulation, and a disheartening weakening of our own hard-won inner resolve. Therefore, the fundamental Stoic virtue of discernment extended its crucial reach into the very heart of our communicative practices, earnestly urging us to cultivate a carefully curated, sacred circle of trust, to meticulously select those rare individuals who had consistently demonstrated genuine empathy, unwavering integrity, and a deeply shared commitment to the principles of virtuous living before granting them privileged access to the innermost sanctuaries of our minds and hearts. This foundational principle powerfully highlighted the enduring Stoic understanding of the profound and often underestimated impact that the quality of our interpersonal relationships exerts on our overall well-being, our moral compass, and our journey towards self-mastery, underscoring the vital importance of protecting our delicate emotional and mental landscape by exercising exceptional care and wisdom in determining who we allow to enter and dwell within its sacred boundaries. Principle 6. Silence is power. In a contemporary world often relentlessly characterized by the cacophony of incessant noise, the pervasive pressure for immediate and often reactive responses, and the pervasive tendency to equate constant verbalization with relevance and engagement, the timeless Stoic principle of finding profound strength and immeasurable wisdom in the disciplined practice of silence stands as an exceptionally powerful and enduring lesson for navigating the complexities of human interaction. The Stoics astutely recognized that silence was far more than a mere void, the simple absence of audible speech. Rather, they understood it to be a potent and deliberate form of action in its own right, a sacred space for deep and considered reflection, for the meticulous evaluation of prevailing circumstances, and for the conscious cultivation of unyielding inner resilience in the face of external turmoil. Esteemed figures within the Stoic tradition, such as the profoundly influential teacher Epictetus, consistently and unequivocally taught their students the fundamental importance of diligently and discerningly distinguishing between those aspects of existence that lay squarely within the sphere of their own direct control, namely, their individual thoughts, considered judgments and intentional actions, and those numerous external factors that remained stubbornly and often frustratingly beyond the reach of their influence, most notably, the fickle opinions, unpredictable behaviors, and often irrational actions of others. When confronted with situations involving external provocation, unjust criticism, or even outright insult, the quintessential Stoic approach was emphatically not to reflexively engage in a tit-for-tat exchange, to meet anger with anger, or to descend into the unproductive quagmire of immediate defensiveness. Instead, they advocated for a deliberate and often challenging process of rational assessment, meticulously evaluating the situation with a detached and objective perspective, which frequently led to the considered adoption of a measured and thoughtful verbal reply, or in many instances, to the conscious and courageous choice of dignified and strategic silence. This deliberate act of non-engagement was by no means intended as a display of weakness, timidity, or avoidance. Rather, it served as a powerful and unmistakable demonstration of profound inner strength, unwavering self-mastery, and a resolute refusal to be externally swayed or manipulated by the negativity or irrationality of others. By consciously and intentionally choosing the path of silence in the face of provocation, The Stoic adept effectively preserved their own precious mental tranquility, steadfastly denied external forces the power to provoke or control their emotional state, and consistently allowed the clear and unwavering guidance of reason to dictate their subsequent actions, should any responsive measures ultimately be deemed necessary or virtuous. This refined Stoic art of strategic silence and profoundly considered response thus powerfully underscored the enduring emphasis within their philosophical framework on the paramount importance of unwavering self-control, the profound understanding that true and lasting power often resides not in the mere volume or frequency of our verbal pronouncements, but rather in the sagacity, intentionality, and resolute discipline of our thoughtful restraint. Principle 7. Let your achievements speak. Ultimately, the Stoic philosophy posited that the most authentic, profoundly persuasive, and enduringly impactful form of communication available to humankind was not to be discovered within the carefully constructed confines of eloquent speeches, the meticulously reasoned architecture of persuasive arguments, or even the most heartfelt expressions conveyed through the medium of words. Rather, the Stoics firmly believed that the truest and most resonant form of communication emanated directly and unequivocally from the consistent, unwavering, and deeply ingrained embodiment of virtue in the very fabric of one's daily existence. Our actions, they passionately argued, served as a far more potent, credible, and ultimately unforgettable testament to our core values, fundamental beliefs, and guiding principles than any multitude of carefully chosen words that we might articulate. The insightful Roman philosopher Seneca, in his practical and enduringly relevant wisdom, fervently urged his readers to actively act what you have learned, thereby powerfully emphasizing the absolutely crucial and unbreakable link between intellectual understanding of philosophical principles and their tangible manifestation in the concrete realities of lived experience. This cornerstone principle of Stoic thought steadfastly underscored the fundamental unity of theory and practice, the deeply held understanding that true and transformative wisdom was not merely a passive state of intellectual assent to abstract concepts, but rather a dynamic and ever-evolving force that actively shaped our character, consistently informed our judgments, and ultimately guided our every action and interaction within the complex tapestry of the world. By diligently and persistently striving to act with unwavering justice, resolute courage, steadfast temperance, and insightful wisdom in all of our diverse endeavors, both great and small, we effectively communicated our deepest and most cherished commitments in a language that transcended the inherent limitations and potential for misinterpretation inherent in mere verbal expression. This enduring Stoic legacy of virtue, profoundly embodied, thus served as a perpetual and compelling reminder that the true and lasting mastery of our communication was inextricably and intricately intertwined with the ongoing cultivation of our inner character, and that the most powerful, authentic, and ultimately meaningful form of communication was, and always would be, a life lived with unwavering integrity, clearly defined purpose, and an unyielding dedication to the timeless principles of reason and virtue. By thoughtfully and diligently integrating these 7 profoundly interconnected Stoic principles into the very core of our lives, we embark upon a transformative and lifelong journey of cultivating not only more effective and impactful communication skills, but also a more virtuous, resilient, and ultimately deeply fulfilling existence. This path, though undeniably demanding consistent self-reflection, dedicated and persistent practice, and an unwavering commitment to aligning our innermost thoughts and carefully chosen words with our outward actions ultimately leads to a profound and enduring sense of inner harmony, an unshakable resilience in the face of the inevitable vicissitudes of external turmoil, and the remarkable ability to navigate the intricate complexities of human interaction with greater wisdom, enhanced clarity, and a profound and abiding sense of purpose.